Yo, 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 yo. We here. Microphone check MOP. Microphone check MOP. I got a special guest here with me in the house. Bryce Simon from Motor City Hoops. Man, once again, thanks for being here with us. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk. I came on to talk Pistons, but we have this big trade that happened today, and maybe we can talk some NBA draft stuff. So, whatever you want to get into, man, I'm all for it. So, I appreciate you asking me on.
Man, it's a pleasure for us to have you here on my podcast, the MOP. So we're ready, man. Once again, thanks for being here. So let's get into the Damian Lillard stuff. Obviously, the soap opera of Damian Lillard ended. It was great for it lasted a long time. After Lillard demanded a trade. What was your immediate reaction after the news broke?
Well, it wasn't great for the Pistons because that's sending Damian Lillard to a division opponent there. So, I wouldn't have even had the Bucks on my radar other than I had recorded with Sam Vecini over on the Game Theory a couple weeks ago, and he actually brought it up. Now, his trade involved sending Drew Holiday to the Warriors and then a bunch of young guys to the Blazers. Obviously, that isn't how it went down, but it's exciting as an NBA fan, right? You send one of the best players in the NBA to go play with another one. I'm interested to see how it plays out because Drew Holiday is a really, really good defender, and so it'll be interesting to do, defensive wise what the Bucks do. But obviously, you're combining Dame and Giannis, so that's exciting. I will say, man, like I can't wrap my head around the Suns side of this whole thing. I
Yeah.
realize they got some other pieces with Grayson Allen and Little and all that, but man, I feel like it's a downgrade from Aiton to Nurkic. Maybe I'm overstating it. Maybe Aiton just wanted out of town, but that's the part of all of this that really kind of has me off guard a little bit.
Yeah, and it was crazy. Yesterday I think Drew Holiday stated that he only wanted to play for Milwaukee, that he didn't plan to play for any other team, and then boom, it's a cold world. It's a cold business. At the end of the day, it's a business, the NBA. So he got traded. He's going to the Blazers, but obviously I think they are going to trade him also to another team. I've seen that Philadelphia and maybe Miami is interested in Drew Holiday. But I agree with you, man. I don't think that Phoenix Suns that can we say that they are the winner of one of the winners of this trade.
Yeah, I don't know how much we know. Like maybe DeAndre Ayton just wanted out of Phoenix that bad, right? And it's like, hey, he's just so unhappy. Let's take what we can get and move on. I'm really interested to see the Holiday thing with Portland because I can talk myself into Portland keeping him around for just a little while. Let him take the defensive matchups so Scoot Henderson doesn't have to. It's not an incredible draft at the top. It's going to be a good draft. Don't get me wrong, but there's no Victor, right? There's no Zion Williamson at the top. So Portland may not have to just go full tank mode. If they end up with the fifth worst odds because they win some games with Drew Holiday, I could talk myself into that. But man, doesn't Drew Holiday just seem like the perfect Miami Heat player? I just feel like he has Miami Heat written all over him. So it will be interesting to see what the Blazers do. My guess is still that they'll go ahead and move him to another team.
Do you think that Pat Riley falls asleep with Lillard, or maybe the Miami Heat is waiting for Joel Embiid?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Some people are really saying, oh, Miami misplayed the market. They thought they could strong arm the Blazers into not giving up that much. It would be interesting if that's what happened. Or, maybe Pat Riley just had a price and he said, I'm not going over that. It will be interesting though, what is plan B now? Because I don't know that Miami can run it back with what they had because they lost some guys in the offseason
Yep.
as well, right? Struce left, Gabe Vincent left. So I think there has to be some sort of move. I don't know that you want to run it back because as impressive as it was, they still were an eight, they were the 8 seed, going into those playoffs before their run. So I assume he has something up his sleeve. It'll be interesting to see what it is.
And maybe we can also say that they lost Tyler Hero too, even though they have not already traded him. It's most likely that the relationship is not there, like it used to be in the past. So with Tyler Hero, so we'll see what happens. We've seen that some later reports that the Utah Jazz maybe is interested
Yeah.
in him.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. Let me ask you this about the Milwaukee Bucks. Obviously, in your on your channel, on YouTube channel, you do a lot of breakdown. I really like that. I've been getting more and more into that specific part of the game, because in this like the basketball discourse, sometimes it gets into too much narratives and this and that, because I could have started this podcast asking you this does this move guarantees a championship for the Milwaukee Bucks, but I didn't want it to go that route, because it's not about we cannot definitely say if they are going to win a championship or not, because a lot of things can happen. But with the Milwaukee Bucks now getting Lillard, obviously they are under a rookie coach in Adrian Griffin. He doesn't have coaching experience. How much do you think that the offense will change now with Lillard being like the primary ball handler?
Yeah, I mean, that gives him someone just to put the ball in his hands and let him get a bucket, right? Like that's why you bring Damian Lillard to your team is I mean, he can play off ball, right? Like that's what's
Yep.
nice about Dame is you can still put the ball in Giannis's hands or even at times Chris Middleton. And it'll be interesting. I think Chris Middleton is kind of an X factor almost in this for me of what does Middleton have left? But what this does is it takes a little bit of pressure off Middleton to be that closer, right? We've seen him when they won a championship. He was the closer on the offensive end. Well, now you have Dame time to do that. So, I mean, I know you have Giannis, but lots of times, you need that perimeter guy that can knock down a three or attack from the perimeter. And you have one of the best in the business to do it late in games. And I think that's where it'll really show when it's winning time late in games during the regular season. And then, of course, in the playoffs. So it will be interesting, right? Like you said, you have a rookie head coach, someone who's never been a head coach. And so, he has his work cut out for him, but they wouldn't have hired him if they didn't believe in him. I think Giannis signed off on it. And so it will be interesting to see what he puts together.
Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, like I was doing a live with my friends on in the afternoon, and I was telling them, when Milwaukee got to call Giannis and tell him that they got Damian Lillard, they also like put a pen. When the Milwaukee Bucks teammates gave Giannis a pen to sign the extension. Do you see Giannis sign an extension right now, or maybe Giannis could be even though they traded for Lillard, maybe he can play into free agency and to get maybe more money, because he can get like up to like 52 million per year, but maybe go in free agency and hit a bigger deal. What do you think about the situation with Giannis and his extension with the
Yeah, I
team?
mean, it's really interesting, right? I mean, I think maybe Giannis put a little bit of pressure on the Bucks to make a move. Assuming he signed off on this one, he's got to feel like they did that. If he doesn't sign anything now, it'll be interesting to see how the season plays out, right? Like this could backfire all of a sudden real fast for the Bucks
Yep.
if what if Dame looks old? We know that the old saying is, father time, nobody can beat it. It always catches up to you, whatever. Like eventually Dame's going to wear down a little bit. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't anticipate that. But what if him and Milton both look like they're a little bit older? So I don't think it's going to backfire. I want to make that clear. But there is a path where this doesn't work, and then Giannis can still make a decision.
Yeah, even Brook Lopez, that even though
Yep.
he had a great season last year with like averaging like 2.2 blocks, was the one of the main anchors of that defense. I was telling a friend of mine that is a Milwaukee Bucks fan that I before this Damian Lillard trade, I stated, or I made like a theory that maybe in the playoffs or at the end of the regular season that the Milwaukee Bucks are gonna be ending playing Giannis at the five instead of Brook Lopez. But what do you think about that maybe subtle change? Do you see Giannis playing at the five
Yeah, I
this
mean,
year?
I could see some, right? It's always matchup dependent. It's
Yep.
interesting that you bring up Brook Lopez because I had the same thought today as well. Because again, as good as Damian Lillard is offensively, he's not Drew Holiday defensively. You also shipped out Grayson Allen, who's in Phoenix now. Now you do have some young guys on the Rockets on the roster, excuse me, the Bucks on the Bucks roster that can defend. Marshawn Beauchamp, Andre Jackson was a guy that was drafted in this class that can really defend. So they have some options, but those are younger guys that are unproven. My point being, you're putting even more pressure on Brook Lopez to be really, really good. As good as he was last year, again, he's a year older, and now you're almost going to ask him to be even better because you don't have that perimeter defense, and you can add Giannis to that as well in terms of the defensive pressure. Although Lillard should take off some of the offensive load, maybe those guys have some more energy for the defensive end.
And we'll have to see how the offense works. You know, Brook Lopez is shooting threes. Maybe you're gonna have Pat Connaughton in the starting lineup. He's gonna be shooting threes. Lillard's gonna be handling the ball at the top of the key most of the time. And then you got Giannis like going to the ring. It's gonna be as you mentioned, Adrian Griffin got his a work cut off for him. So we'll see what happens with the Milwaukee Bucks. So let's get into our next topic, the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, we got Bryce Simmons here from the Motor City Hoops. What are your expectations? Obviously, they signed Monty Williams to a nice deal. He like put like a new standard in terms for money for the coaches. What do you think about these Detroit Pistons?
Yeah, I mean, it was a long year last year, right? With 17 wins.
A lot of
When
injuries.
when your number one pick doesn't play most of the season and misses all of it, it's tough. Luckily, this team has some other young talent that was fun to watch night in and night out. Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren. They ended up trading Sadiq Bey. But yeah, and then they made the move. Dwayne Casey, a great man, very respected around the league as a man, very respected as someone that helps grow young talent and shows them how to be professionals. But I think most people around Detroit Pistons would agree that it was time for a new voice. And Dwayne Casey stayed in the organization. He moved into the front office, so he's still around. I saw him around with the team at Summer League when I was out in Vegas. And you bring in Monty Williams, and what you hope with Monty and this new staff is just a new voice, new energy, maybe some new things offensively. And now you can take this young core and hopefully really have it start to grow.
And Monty's he's a leader. He's obviously not a lot of coaches are leaders, and he knows how to get the locker room going. Even though maybe he had some troubles with DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul in the Phoenix Suns, but he got a new opportunity with a young group. Like the Detroit Pistons. One thing that I was looking when I saw the Pistons, that they got the most back-to-backs in the NBA this season, right?
Yeah, I
With
think that
15.
that I think that came out with the schedule. So I'll tell you this: in Detroit, we just say hashtag Detroit versus everybody. And so anytime something like that comes out, we just say, hey, it is what it is. That's how it's always going to be, and it's going to make it that much sweeter. I truly believe that this team is on the right trajectory. Some Pistons fans have hope for the playoffs. That's not where I'm at. I think that would be a major, major jump. This team
Yeah.
probably should have been better than 17 wins last year. The Cade injury, they sat guys at the end of the year. Assuming some health this season, there could be a large jump. But man, even to 30 wins is a 13-win jump. And so they did bring in some more shooting, some more veterans, mostly on one-year deal or on expiring deals at this point. Shouldn't say one-year deals. They're on expiring deals. And then again, the young talent, there's more athleticism. It'll be really interesting to see how it kind of starts to come together.
The the Kate Cunningham injury was the wrist.
The shin. He had
Oh,
yeah. So Cade had battled through a shin injury. And as it came out, it was essentially his entire NBA career. This was something he had been battling. How many ever games he ended up playing last year? It wasn't very many. And they eventually
like 12.
Yeah, I think it was 12. And you could see it bothering him at times. Even then, his shot is tended to be short from the 3-point line. His mid-range jumper looked good, but his 3-point shot, and it was either rest or go ahead and have this surgery. And they kind of decided to play the long game. Go ahead and have this surgery, let him get fully healthy, take the whole season. And then obviously this summer we saw him playing at Rico Hines with the Team USA Select as Team USA was getting ready for the World Cup. And it seems like he's fully healthy by everything I've heard.
Yep. I was watching the Detroit Pistons roster, and maybe I saw, and I saw this obviously last year. They got some redundancy with the center position. They got Marvin Bagley, Wiseman coming from the Warriors. Jalen Duren, he's a young prospect, and Stewart, maybe that he can also play the 5. What do you think about the fact that someone can say, oh, they got a lot of centers and maybe they can have to get rid of one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong, right? You look at the roster and you're not going to be able to play all those guys. Now, I will say this. I think a lot of people look at Isaiah Stewart and say he's a five. And you're not wrong. Isaiah Stewart will play five and probably should play some five. I think that's where he can kind of be like a small ball five. The
Yep.
Pistons want to see if Isaiah Stewart can be a four man. They've went down this road of growth and development with him. Whether people agree with it or not, that's up to them. I agree with it. I tend to agree with it, trying to turn him into a guy that can stretch the floor a little bit, knock down threes. But that stuff is also valuable if he plays at the five because he is a little bit switchable. That still leaves three guys, though. As you mentioned, I think Jalen Duren is absolutely the main priority there. The Detroit Pistons, from everything we've heard, Troy Weaver had Jalen Duren in his top 5 or 6 on his big board on draft night. Like they thought if Jaden Ivey would have been gone at 5, they seriously would have considered taking Jalen Duren at 5. Obviously, they traded back into the lottery and took Duren. So I think what it comes down to is it's a battle between Marvin Bagley III and James Wiseman kind of for the backup minutes is where I think training camp is going to start with that, big man rotation.
Yeah, we saw Wiseman played in the G League. In the G League, I mean, in the Summer League. And Bagley, I think he was dealing with injuries too, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of been a thing with Bagley, right? Bagley came over not this past season, but the season before at the deadline from the Sacramento Kings and played really well, to be quite honest. The Pistons had a good stretch post trade deadline that season. Him and Cade had some really good flow and chemistry, running pick and roll, throwing lobs. And then Bagley started out last year playing okay. And then injury bug hit, and it's kind of been a story for us. Same with James Wiseman, right? James Wiseman, the funny thing was when James Wiseman got traded, to the Pistons, I don't remember if Jalen Duren had played more minutes or it was barely less than what James Wiseman had. Jalen Duren just in his rookie season, Wiseman gets traded for at the deadline, and they were essentially similar in the amount of time they had played in the NBA. So I'm still interested to see really both of those guys fully healthy and get some real rotational minutes. But the problem is the Pistons may have to choose one or the other to really try to develop and give that time to.
Yep. I would like to know what is your opinion about the in-season tournament? I've been calling it wrongly like the mid-season tournament, but it's not at the during the half of the season. What do you think about the in-season tournament and how much advantage can take a team like the Pistons using this in-season tournament maybe as a platform for young talent like Jaden Ivey? You mentioned Jaden Ivey and Asar Thompson that was a rookie.
Yeah, so for me, it's I'm kind of neutral on the in-season tournament, to be honest. I'm not up in arms about it. I know some people just think it's flat out stupid. If they do, I'm cool with it. I don't think it's stupid, but I don't think it's the greatest thing ever. Maybe I'll be proven wrong this year, right? Maybe I'll be locked in on all those, whatever nights those games are, Tuesdays and Fridays or whatever it is. And then when the tournament actually happens, you bring up a good point, though. A team like the Pistons, you talk a lot about how the young talent, you want them to get meaningful games, right? Games that mean a little bit more, that maybe the other team's gearing up for a little bit more. Well, if this thing works the way it's supposed to, maybe they'll get a little taste of that in the regular season if they don't make it to the playoffs, which again, I don't think they will this year. So maybe they get a little taste of that, not a big one, but maybe a little taste of some games that just carry a little bit more weight than just a normal regular season game.
Yeah, I'm the same with the in-season tournament. We gotta see if it works. Obviously, if Adam Silver, who has been doing a lot of changes and subtle changes, the draft for the All-Star game, the play-in obviously worked tremendously for a lot of teams, as we mentioned. The Lakers, Miami got very far into the playoffs last year, but we'll gotta see. But I think it's a great opportunity for young teams, as you mentioned, to use this as a platform to showcase their talent, and we'll see what happens with that. I got a question with you with Bogdanovic. I think maybe he looks like the odd man out. Do you think that maybe he can be like a trade piece for the Pistons, or do you think that they should keep him?
Yeah, that one will be interesting. There's honestly about 3 guys on this roster right now I think the Pistons want to have on the team to try to win. They do want to try to win games this year. Boyan is one of them. Alec Burks is one of them, also an
Works.
expiring deal. And Monte Morris is also one of, they traded for him this offseason. He's on an expiring deal. Boyan's deal isn't expiring, but it's only $2 million guaranteed next year. So it's essentially an expiring deal if a team wanted to. So I am fascinated to see, because I think all three of those guys are absolutely in the rotation. I think all of those guys are in the 10-man rotation playing minutes every night. I just don't know what they're going to do with them at the trade deadline. Do they end up keeping all of them and then they just hit free agency? Do they try to bring them back for a couple more years? I don't know. I honestly don't know what path they take. And maybe it depends on if they're winning games or not and how well the young guys are playing. So I'm just as fascinated as anybody else to see, because I do think those guys will be in high demand. Boyan's coming off a career year, man. He played incredible last year, shot the ball really well. Same with Alec Burks. Monte Morris is a really good backup point guard. And Joe Harris is even on the contract. I know Joe Harris is older, had some injuries, not great
Wow, I
defensively.
forgot about Joe Harris.
Yeah. They essentially a sin contract, as they call it, where they took in some assets to bring in Joe Harris, expiring deal. But I mean, the guy shoots over 40% from three essentially every single year. So they have some floor spacing and some veterans that they can utilize if they need to.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Bogdanovic was like a like a top 2 or top 3 points per game for the Pistons last year, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken.
Yes. Yep.
What can you tell us about All-Star Thompson? All-Star Thompson.
Yeah.
He was obviously at a high draft pick for the Pistons. He's also had obviously a twin playing for the Rockets. What can you tell us about his game? I think the one thing that I've heard a lot of coming out of him, and for people that talks about him, is that they highlight their defense, his defense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really where I think the Pistons are going to get the most out of him, the most benefit, especially early in his career. So I don't know if you like comps or if your listeners, your followers like comps, but the one that we like to use, and has been not just by Pistons people, not just by me, definitely, but draft people in general, is Andre Iguodala. That's the
Yep.
archetype of player that we're talking about. Nobody's saying that's who he's going to be 100%, but that's the archetype of player. Ausar Thompson is extremely athletic. His brother probably is a top 5 athlete in the NBA. Asar's probably top 10 or 15. He's a little less athletic than his brother, but still insanely athletic. He gets after it defensively. He's got some room to grow, but like all rookies do, right? He has great feel. He's a really good passer. And so, the same Andre Iguodala stuff where he's just a ball mover, can cut, can do all of those things. He's a play finisher, offensive rebounds. But yeah, it's really, I've kind of campaigned for him to be in the starting lineup only because I would think he can take those matchups defensively, which then allow Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey to focus on their offense.
Yeah, and we got the opportunity to saw him in the summer league with the Pistons. As you mentioned, he looked very, very athletic. Obviously, they were playing last year in the overtime league, a
Yep.
different route that a lot of draft prospect can have the opportunity to nowadays to take. So that's a perfect transition to the NBA prospects for this upcoming draft. In my opinion, I'm more like excited for Cooper Flag. Obviously, he's a great name. I even got him a nickname. He's the Lobster, because he's from Maine. So I'm very excited about Cooper Flag. But let's talk about this upcoming draft. In my opinion, not in my opinion, I've watched a lot of Matthews Buzelis.
Okay.
I think he's going to be like a top 5 maybe draft prospect for this upcoming draft. But I've also heard you talk about Alexander Sarr. Wow. What other names, or maybe what can you tell us about Alexander Sarr?
Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of Alex Sarr, man. The first time I turned on the film, it really popped. It was watching kind of last year's stuff, and I was just kind of watching clips, not necessarily full games. And I'm like, man, this kid is good. Like, I'm falling in love. So I get on my phone and I text all the other draft guys I talk to, and they're like, well, he doesn't always play hard, and a few different things. I'm like, okay, I need to pump the brakes a little bit. Then they had that matchup with the G League Ignite out in Vegas, and he looked good still. And then they're over in the NBL Blitz playing games already, and he's still looking good. really good defender, really long. He just moves so well. Like you turn on the film and he's long, but he can move very well. He's a very fluid athlete, really good defensively. The offensive game has some room to grow, right? Like it's not all there yet. Still's got to develop some core strength, some coordination. The
And he
jumper
shot,
look,
right?
yeah, he can shoot a little bit, but it's got to come along still. He's playing a little bit too much on the perimeter for me. I'd like to see him get a little bit more involved on like pick and roll, lobs, dunker spot stuff. But I'm a huge fan of Alex Sarr. You know, if I had to say who is my guy, like my favorite guy in the draft right now, it's probably him. I'm really excited about Sarr.
What would be a comp for him if we can maybe?
So the one I keep trying to go back to Chet Holmgren, and but I don't think he handles it like Chet or shoots it. So like defensively, that's kind of what I would say is what you're going to try to get from him. But Chet had a more developed offensive game than Sarr does right now.
Any other names? Because I've heard about Buselis, but any other names that pop up for you?
I'll say, you know, I've really been keen on watching, like I say, the NBL Blitz guys and then the Ignite guys. So I think Ron Holland has been really impressive for the
Yeah.
Ignite. You know, he's a guy that's been getting top 3 buzz all the time. He's more skilled than I realize. Whenever people talk about Ron Holland, they talk about he's kind of a dog, right? Like he gets after it, plays hard, really defends. I actually think because of that, some of his offensive skill has gone undervalued. He shoots it kind of low, but the shot looks good. It looks like it has good touch. He can handle a little bit. He's pretty athletic. So I like Ron Holland as well. And man, I'm just excited for some of these other teams to start playing. Like I say, the NBL Blitz has been going on. Those games are going to keep rolling, the NBL games. But it's been nice to get some basketball, but I'm ready for college hoops to start as well.
Yeah, man. I started the year before last with the draft. I started obviously following and watching a lot of film from Chet, Paolo Banchero, Jabari Smith, and last year obviously with the rookies. So I'm very excited for this upcoming draft. That is something that maybe a lot of people don't have like put attention on. That they talk about the NBA in the regular season, and that's fine. But we can also talk about the draft and the new players coming into the league. My last question to you, man. I'm very, very happy for you to be here with us. My last question to you: we've seen the Jabari Parker comment saying that the league is watered down because they don't got Carmelo. They don't. I mean, they don't got Dwight Howard. They don't got John Wall. They don't got Boogie Cousins. What in 30 years? In 30 years, 25 years, how do you think that this era of basketball that we can agree that is being dominated by foreign players? Obviously, I'm a big supporter of foreign players. In 30 years, how do you think that this era or this during this time is going to be talked about or is going to be discussed?
I mean, I think it's going to be talked about as one of the most skilled eras of basketball and one that changed the game. I mean, listen, I never made it to that level, right? I played at a high level. I played Division I basketball, but nowhere close to an NBA player. So who am I to judge what Jabari Parker is saying? But I read some of that and I was like, man, I'm just not sure I agree with that. Look at the physical specimens we have in the NBA and then what they do. Look what Giannis does. Look what LeBron does. Look what Victor is going to do. Look what Chet. I know they haven't done it yet, but these just monsters. And then on top of that, then you have these little dudes like Damian Lillard and Steph Curry that are dominating the league as well. And then you have all the guys in between as well, like Kawhi Leonard. You know, it doesn't matter anymore. However tall you are, it's about skill. Guys defend. Like, I think that goes overstated sometimes. I'm not saying guys defend, their butts off night in and night out, but you know how hard it is to guard in the NBA, man? You know how hard it is with how talented these guys are to guard in the NBA? And so I think it's going to be remembered as an era that was super skilled and an era that started to change the way the game was played because we have 5 guys that can shoot threes and guys shooting from 40 feet, and it's a good shot for them. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just blinded by it. A lot of fun to watch, but I think it's a great era of basketball. I think there's so much talent. They need the expansion teams.
Yup.
They're ready for the expansion teams because there is enough talent in the NBA to hold 2 more teams.
And Adam Silver will like confirm it that maybe they're gonna go to Las Vegas and Seattle My man, it was an honor, a pleasure to have you here with us. We got Bryce Simmons in the podcast in the house from the Motor City Hoops. Go and subscribe to. He does a lot of great breakdown for the Detroit Pistons. So my man, happy to have you here once again. Thanks for being here with us in the MOP podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a
Thank you,
blast.
man. So until next time, hopefully we can have you in the future. So
Anytime.
go check his work. He does an amazing job. So that was it, the MOP podcast. I'm out. Thanks to once again to Bryce Simmons. Shout out to everybody that's gonna be watching this live video. Go and like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'm out. This was the MOP podcast with Bryce Simmons. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.